Alright guys, welcome back to the garage. It's now Monday, February 22nd, I believe, 2021. And back on the 1968 Triumph TR250 Restoration. If you have not subscribed to the channel and you are enjoying the content, please consider subscribing and clicking on the notification bell to be notified of any videos that I upload. Alright, we've got that out of the way. So what are the plans for this week? Well, I've been sort of stewing it over yesterday afternoon and kind of making a list in my mind. I should probably actually write it down. As mentioned previously, I'm kind of having to jump around a little bit to sort of manage the availability of parts that I have on hand versus the availability of parts that I have on order, and some are of course back ordered in this current environment. Some parts are a little harder to get than others. So I've decided that I'm going to work on two areas this week. One will be the carburetors, so we'll get the carburetors down off the shelf. I've just got them tucked up here under a plastic bag. And as mentioned, I have an issue with one of the carbs, and I'll go into more detail about that in a little bit. The other area I'd like to concentrate on is under the dash. So we got our wiring harness in yesterday, as most of you have probably seen, and we've got our heater box installed. While we have good access, I want to do all of the heater hosing, so all of the duct work. So I've got that here in a box brought up from the basement, and some of you might recall me mentioning that this was not actually installed fully on the car when I got it. I believe they only had hoses up to the demisters or hoses to the eyeball vents. I can't remember. I'd have to actually go back and look at my photos. But it was not installed with all the hosing hooked up. So that is going to be not a challenge, but I'll have to dig out the factory diagram to see how this hosing is run. Of course, we're going to take it apart and clean it. I've got bits of new hose that we can incorporate, and some of the existing hose or the original hose is in good shape. But we'll figure out what we're going to do with that. I brought my escutcheons out, and I brought my ashtray out. Because the other plan is to, once we start fitting these hoses in and hooking up the escutcheons up top, we're going to be fitting the dash top as well. So we've got that sitting here in the back of the boot. You might have seen that on the car earlier, just sitting there. So that is part of the plan as well. And generally do anything under dash that will be difficult to get to once the metal dash frame is on. The other thing I can think of are probably the windscreen mounts. I'd like to get installed on the body tub, so they're in position, so we can get ready to sort of drop the windscreen in when that is ready to go. So that is basically an overview of what I want to accomplish for this week. So hopefully you'll stick around and watch it all come together. All right, let's get working. I think the first thing I'm going to do, outside of what I've just mentioned, is I'm going to clean the remains of the wiring harness up to get it off the floor and put it away. And I think part of that will be to rescue my relays. Don't need the fuse box. I actually picked a new one out of my parts box this morning. But I definitely want to take the relays off and get those cleaned up. And of course we're going to make a reference to where all the wires hook up. So we'll take lots of photos and lots of notes before we remove those from the actual old harness. And then we'll clean those relays up and we'll get them back to looking a little better before we put them on the car. So that's probably the first thing I'm going to do, is just get this whole old wiring harness cleaned up and put away before we move on to the next steps. Alright, just wanted to give you a quick shot of what those relays look like in their current condition, and you can see they've seen better days. We're going to try to clean them up as best as we can, and if need be, we'll give them a quick coat of paint. So there's that one there, and we've got another one to deal with down here. So again, we've taken photographs of the wiring in the back and made some notes so we can hook these up a little bit more easily. And we're going to confirm the wiring, obviously, because who knows what's been done over the years. So we'll confirm the wiring before we actually hook it up physically to the new harness. But this is a good place to start. All right, we've got the relay painted, and that looks good. We've got the flasher unit painted and sort of fake catted, and I think that looks much better. While we're in the painting mode, I figured we'd do these dovetails for the door catches. There's another pair that I had in stock. I was hoping I was going to be able to just clean these up and leave them as they were, but again, they're going to need some work as well. So I figured I'd start with a freshly cleaned up part. The ones that are on the car have very, very loose pins, so these are much tighter and much better. So we're going to do the fake CAD kit on these hinges, or these dovetails as well, and we'll see what they look like in compared to this in the end. We'll see how close we can get it. It's going to be fake, but it's going to be not bad looking in my opinion. Alright, we're going to try to do the fake cadmium coating on these dovetails, so I thought I would just sort of bring you along. So I've just got a little heat gun here warming these pieces up because it's pretty cold to be painting in the garage. First step is going to be to do a coat of silver cad. So I'll bring you back when we do the silver cad coating, just for a quick shot. Alright, there's the silver cadmium paint, and I've just given them a quick dust with that silver cad as the base. So now we'll move on to the gold, and what I try to do is I don't try to solidly paint over the silver, I just try to dust it. So hold the can fairly far back and just give it a quick dusting all over, and then we'll quickly hit it with the red zinc chromate, and again, really, really lightly mist it. You're just looking for kind of highlights when you hit with the red, and then you follow up with the green. You're really just looking to sort of hit little highlight areas, so fairly far away on the can, just to be able to hit it with a little bit of dust, and it'll stick to it, and you'll hopefully get that sort of CAD look to it. So we'll go ahead and we'll dust it with the this technically should be the gold zinc from Eastwood, but I've run out of that, so we're just using this Krylon gold, which seems to work okay. And then again, like I said, we'll follow up with the red and the zinc chromate. Alright, there they are with a fairly thin coat of gold. You can sort of see a little bit of the silver backing, peeking through. So now we'll go ahead and we'll hit them with the green and red highlights. Again, just far away can and just lightly mist here and there. Doesn't have to be an overall coat, you just kind of hit little blotches here and there. Just space it out evenly. Alright, and a quick shot of them with the red highlights before we go to the green. And hopefully you can see that in the camera. So we'll go with a little bit of green now. Alright, and there's a quick coat, or a quick blast with the green highlights. So the final step, we'll do a couple of coats of clear coat. Again, just rattle can clear. And then we'll bring you back for one last look at these compared to the originals. And just a final shot for comparison purposes, the painted part on the left and the original cadmium coated one on the right. So like I said, it's not cadmium coated for real, but it's a reasonable facsimile and looks a lot better than it did before I started. So there you go, Eastwood cadmium kit. Alright guys, we're just about to drill some holes in our fresh paint. We are going to affix this sealer plate in the proper position. As I mentioned, on the stock cars, they would have had two locations here welded on the inside, some captive nuts on the inside for those fasteners to fit into, but I don't have them on my car since this car has had extensive work in this area and it wasn't even running with these sealer plates anyway. So what the plan is to drill the hole and use the fasteners with a bolt head on the inside, stainless steel on the inside, and we'll just nut and lock washer it on the outside. I'm thinking on the top location, just measuring it up really quickly, I may be able to actually use the top location to fasten my fuse box actually, so that might work out okay. As mentioned previously, since I've got the cutout for the wing vents, I'm going to have to get a little bit creative with the location of the fuse box and the flasher unit, I think. So that might be a good solution for that area. So we're going to carefully drill that out. I've got the masking tape on the inside, as you saw, to prevent the paint from cracking too much. I think I'll try to drill it from the inside out, although the brake booster is probably going to be in the way, so I'll probably have to go outside in, but should be okay. Alright, that worked out pretty well, I think. I need some longer fasteners so I can get a bigger washer and a lock washer on there. But we've got the fuse box attached at that location, and I think that's going to be working out perfectly there. I've got enough room on the left-hand side to get the wiring in the fuse box. I've got room for my relays to go. I don't think it's going to interfere with the view from the vent tubes. I've got enough room stick out off the back to be able to get the flange of the vent tube in there. So I think we're going to be good. We'll just need some new fasteners. On to the next side. All right, the bulkhead sealer plate is now done on the passenger side. A couple of nylock nuts there on the back, a couple of washers, all stainless steel, so we should be good to go there. So that's out of the way. Those are drying. So maybe carbs? What do you think? All right, before I dig the carbs out, I figured I'd get those parts from drying off the line so I don't keep running into them as I walk by them. So there's the relay and the flasher there. We'll just put it on the shelf. Once I get the other relay, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I broke a tab off the other relay and it's not really worth fixing. I'll just get a new relay for the overdrive. So I don't know where I put that, but anyway, those are ready to go back on the car eventually. I did put the dovetails back on. Here's the original dovetail that came off this car. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this or not, but you can see the movement in this pin. So those are pretty worn out. So these ones are much better, and I think they look the part. So another little piece back on the car, and we'll throw these in the spares bin if anybody's in desperate need. These could be used, but again, the pins are a little loose, but we got another backup set as well. All right, just about to pull the carbs down off the shelf, but I thought I'd give you a little background. So as far as the car running and the break-in was concerned, I don't think you'd really know that there was any issue with the carbs by listening to it. It sounded like it was running on all cylinders perfectly, and you wouldn't know that there was something amiss with the carburetors if you were here in the garage listening to it at idle and listening to it while it was at 2,000 or 3,000 RPM, or even listening to it at a quick acceleration burst. But when I pulled the plugs, let me see if I can turn these out. They're just in here loosely. When I pulled the plugs and I looked at numbers 1 and 2 plugs, which looked like this, basically clean, not a mark on them. So that is spark plug number 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 look exactly the same. Then if I pull out spark plug number 3 and have a look at this matches 4, 5, and 6. And this is what they technically should look like. So they had some color on them. And you can see the big difference there between these two. Let me see if I can put it down here. So this one doesn't look like it's been it hasn't fired. This one definitely has. So it's got a little tiny bit of color on it, but there's obviously something wrong with that carburetor that's feeding cylinder 1 and 2. So we're going to break that carb down and have a look and see if there's something stuck as far as a progression circuit, or who knows, might be a port blocked. So we're going to pull that apart and we're going to see if we can get these plugs to look a little bit better once we get to running the car again. So I figured I'd do that before I put the carbs back on the car, because obviously there is a bit of an issue if that looks that white. All right, we've got the carbs down off the shelf, and this will be the culprit for cylinders number 1 and 2, so we'll pull this one apart. So those, I'm waiting to get back on the car. I mean, that's going to look super fantastic, I think. Once they're back on the car, that's going to really complete that side of the engine bay. And it's going to go well with the theme that I've got going. So yeah, I'm eager to get these back on the car, but let me get them sorted out first before we do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect all the linkages anyway, because it's probably going to be easier to put the carbs back on and then put the linkage on afterwards, I would say. It was easy enough to take them off with the linkage, but getting them on is another story, because now that the body is on, some of the fasteners are going to be really difficult to get to, and I figure I should be able to put carb number 1, or I'm calling this carb number 1, and then carb number 2 on, and then put the center carb on after, which will give me some clearance in the center to be able to get to some of these bolts underneath the intake a little bit easier on both sides. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, let me disconnect some stuff and we will concentrate on this little guy. All right, guys, just disassembling the Webers, and I think I may have found a possible culprit. These are the accelerator pump jets, and they are completely seized in their bores. They should be able to come out. So I've just sprayed them down with some penetrating fluid to see if I can get them to move, as I think that their orifices might be blocked up or gummed up below these. So we're going to try to get these out without damaging them. So I thought I'd take a quick video of those. while I'm here and before I try to actually remove them. So we'll go ahead and do that now. That could be the culprit. Hopefully it is, actually. Won't have to go any further. I managed to get them out with the help of a little, actually this tool worked really well. I guess this is like a nail remover. Anyway, I was able to get up onto the edge. There's a little lip actually in these at the top, and I was able just to get under that little edge and pry them up. So you can see how green that is. So there's a little orifice right there. I'm not sure if you can see that. That looks like it's pretty gummed up. So we're going to get the brake cleaner out and see if we can clean these up a little bit, and we'll get them reinstalled, and hopefully that will be the resolution to this problem. Then we can get the carbs on the car. Okay, I have a visitor in the garage tonight. Yeah. Les is telling me about his dentist story. Did you see him smiling? It's not because he's smiling, it's because he's on heavy painkillers.
Yeah, Tylenol 3s.
He's smiling on the outside, but he's in pain on the inside.
And my head feels like it's tingling.
You want a beer?
No.
It'd go well with those painkillers. No?
No way.
All right, so back to the jets here, the accelerator jets. You can see I've just shined them up. They look good now. I just used a gray Scotch-Brite and some WD-40 to get that residue off there. So I'm just going to give Les a little bit of a carb lesson here before he goes for the evening. Yeah. And you'll probably want to see the internals of these Webers while I have the covers off. So I'll give him a bit of a lesson. We'll put them back together. And then I may actually just pull the other two apart just to check the same accelerator pump jets to make sure that they look to be in good shape. Now that I've seen the ones that came out of here, it'd probably be a good idea for me to check the ones in the other ones as well while they're off the car. All right, we got that lead carb all assembled back together, so that's ready to go. Like I mentioned, I think what I'll do is I'll just, while I have them here off the car, I may as well give them a quick going over and a quick check before we actually put them back on the car. So we'll do that now, and we'll start with the, we'll do the middle carb, and then we'll do the last carb last. All right, guys, just coming up to 9:30 p.m., and I guess I should probably go in for dinner. Had a good day out here working on the carbs. So the carbs are all clean. All three now have been gone through again just for some added insurance. So tomorrow is going to be carb day. So we'll get these on the car tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that big open space over there being filled up by these wonderful Webers. So stay tuned for tomorrow, and by the end of the day tomorrow, this should be transformed into something totally different to look at. All right, that's it for tonight, guys. We'll pick it up tomorrow.